Welcome, everyone, to the dance floor, where life lessons are learned through the art of dance. I'm your host, Anna Harsh, and today I have my best friend, Geoff Steele, here co-hosting with me, dancer and choreographer, and we have an extremely special guest, Mr. Mike Curtis. You might know Mike from Myrtle Beach area from the group All That. He clogs, and he's going to tell us all about that today. Mike, welcome to the dance floor.
Thank you, doll. It's nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Geoff and I are so honored to have you here today. I have to thank Geoff for introducing me to clog dancing. I'm not great at it, but I do enjoy it, and it's very addicting, I think. Mike, how did you fall in love with dance? What was your first experience?
I think that's the big thing of it is it's very addicting. This dance is especially. I was big into sports as a kid. I was kind of a late bloomer. I didn't start until I was about 14 years old. And I was big into baseball, wrestling, those types of things. And during the summer in school, there's not a lot of that going on. So I was getting a little bit bored. My little grandma said she wanted to go take clogging lessons, didn't want to do it by herself, asked me would I take them with her. And so I was like, yeah, I got nothing else to do, so let's go. And there's a place called Natural Bridge State Park. Jeff's been to Natural Bridge, I believe. And they were giving some clogging lessons up there. So we ended up getting with a guy named Steve Smith up at Natural Bridge, and I ended up going to his classes regularly after that. Got about 10, 12 weeks in, got a little bored with it. It was only so much you can learn. I saw a kid out of Middletown, Ohio named Brent Montgomery dance. And Brent, to this day, is still the best one-on-one dancer I've ever seen.
Wow.
So, spoke to him, got with him, and met these guys and have been on an incredible journey since then. But it was a lot of luck with me. I ended up with the right people at the right time. I've been lucky enough to have the best instructors in the world from beginning to end. I've been lucky enough to meet this group of guys who have the same drive and want to promote the sport as I do. And so it's been a very, very lucky situation that I've been in, but I haven't taken that for granted either. So.
And Mike, I know that you wear a lot of hats for the group. So tell us some other things for people that haven't seen All That. What kinds of things do you do for the group besides dancing?
So regularly, we perform in a show here in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. The theater is called the Carolina Opry. So we have the normal Carolina Opry show. We also do a show called Time Warp, which is a 60s, 70s, and 80s musical journey, if you will. And so we do both of those. I'm kind of the lead guy in charge of everything we do. So I head up picking out the songs. And I say head up, but I always talk to the guys. But I'm the one that they like, hey, we want to do a new song. What do you think of this? And I'll talk to the guys. Hey, do y'all like this? And let's put some choreography together. So I'm kind of the point man that kind of heads up everything. As well as that, though, we perform on cruises. We're what they call guest entertainers on cruise ships. So we'll go out anywhere from 3 to 10 days at a time. We'll do a 45-minute show out on the cruise ships. That I do a lot more work with that. You have to have 2 different 45-minute sets every time you go out, and they have to be completely different. You have to edit the music, the videos, the lights, and everything that goes with that. You have to theoretically put together an entire show to perform on these boats. And we mainly do Disney cruise lines and celebrity cruise lines. It's really keeping us busy right now. So we're thankful for that. But boy, it's keeping us on our toes.
Wow.
But yeah,
Mike, that's a lot.
I'm kind of the point guy. I've been doing it for so long, and I know the style and the way that the group likes to operate. I know how we do things. And so I can answer any question that anybody has, any agent, any booker. I can answer all those questions really quick. I've got all the videos and photos and promo material I can send really quick. I've got everything that has to do with the shows right at the tips of my fingers. So it's just easy to keep that one person in charge of all of that type of stuff. And that just happens to be me. So
isn't that funny how dance really helps us learn that skill of organization? We really do more than just go out there and perform. And I don't think audiences really realize that.
No, I'm not sure they do either. There's a funny story. We just got back off of a couple celebrity cruises in January. And, you're prepared to do a 45-minute show, 2 of them when you go out. This one, they had overbooked. They had way too many acts on there. So he comes up to us and says, we need you to do a 10-minute show here, a 20-minute show here, a 15-minute show here, and this and that and this and that. Well, we've got 45-minute sets. So we had to automatically come up with 5 different shows we did.
Oh, my gosh.
All anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes at a time. but it had to be right there, just real quick and spur of the moment type of stuff. And so, it happens,
Yeah.
it's how prepared you can make yourself for when those situations come up. And the way, us being able to do it that fast and do it that well, it really impressed the cruise line and the cruise director. There was actually one night he came up to us and he said, the guests on the ship have come up on multiple occasions and asked, can they see some more of you guys? So do you have another piece that you can do for them? And obviously we do. We would make that happen for them. That's the big thing with us is the crowds, and we love them as much as they love us. So it's there's unexpected things that happen, but boy, you just got to be ready to roll. So
that's the truth. Jeff and I have both experienced those kinds of events ourselves, and we just looked at each other like, yeah, okay, let's throw that duet in here. Or Jeff will do a solo, and we know what that's like as directors of our own groups. It's really challenging, and we wear a lot of hats, and it does keep you on your toes. I know you guys do lots of different styles that are incorporated with your clogging show. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, mainly it's all percussive dance, though. That's the biggest question we get. We actually do a piece in one of our shows. We titled it "The Difference in Dances." Most people say, "Are you Irish dancing? Are you tap dancing?" They hardly ever say clogging. So when we tell them clogging, their mind is blown because they don't know what that is. And so we do this number that explains the difference in those main three dances. But there's a lot of tap in what we do. There's a lot of Irish in what we do as far as the moves that our feet are doing. We don't confine our arms and all that type of stuff like Irish dancers do. Tap dancers dance more on the top of the beat, more to the melody. So, but the moves themselves, we incorporate into that bass beat that we're dancing to the whole time. And every now and then you'll throw a little butt shake or something in, but most of the time it's all percussive dance and that type of stuff. But a lot of tap, a lot of Irish, but basically from top to bottom, it's all clogging in everything we do.
Can I just say how important that really is, Mike? Because so many people think clogging, at least everywhere that I've been, when they think clogging, they think the Crinlin, they think the square dancing, you know, and we've worked so hard to break through those boundaries of bringing clogging into modern day, so to speak. And I'm not saying that there isn't a place for the Crinlin and the calls and the freestyles and all of that.
But that's not all it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that it's very important also to distinguish, like you said, between Irish dance, tap dance, and clogging, because a lot of times it gets misinterpreted. Oh, right. I just love those tappers. I love those. Yeah. I love that tap dance. Well, that wasn't tap. That was clogging,
Yeah.
And so to be able to take that and separate that out and show those differences, that's amazing to me. And kudos to you guys for doing it, because it's a conversation that really needs to be had.
Thanks, man. I'll tell you, there's a funny story that goes along with why we do that number. The big thing is it's not a very well-known dance. So it was our hope in the beginning that we could do some things differently, get in front of some larger audiences, and basically educate the people on how cool this dance is. It's just as cool as the others, just nobody knows about it. And so we were on one of the Disney ships. There's a lot of things that happen to me still. I'm from a little bitty town, Jeff. You know that. Paris, yeah. Kentucky. There's less than 2,000 people in my whole town. So this whole being a little bit famous and this and that's weird to me. That's just not the way my mind works, And I understand people know who you are, but there's a lot of things that still happen to me that I feel like I'm still that kid in high school. No way this is happening. No way. Yeah. And this story I'm going to tell you is one of the craziest things. So I do the MC work on our shows on the ships. And we were on one of the Panama Canal cruises with Disney. So it was a big long one that goes up through the Panama Canal from Florida through the Panama Canal up into the West Coast. And so you're out at sea for about 4 or 5 days. So you're just looking for stuff to do. Well, there was a really good group of people on there. And after one of our shows one night, we were in one of the little lounges, just hanging out, kind of relaxing. The crowd was incredible that night. There was actually a guy on that ship that I knew. His name was Josh Strickland. He was Tarzan on Broadway. And I've actually known him for a long time. And so when I walked on the boat and saw Josh, I was like, what in the world? So like, it made it just a fun trip just because I knew that dude was there. And so just a fun trip. But after our show that night, we were all in the lounge. Everybody was talking about how good the show was. And I noticed this guy. He was an older guy. He kind of looked like he was creeping. I was like, who is this weird guy? You know, and I say, oh, but he was, I don't know, mid-50s, you know, I'm 46. So he wasn't that much older than me, but he was a very well-established looking man. And so I saw him, he kept staring, and everywhere I turned, he was there and this and that. And then one point, I felt a tap on my shoulder, and I turned around, and it was this guy. And he introduced himself to me, and he said, I got to tell you, he said, watching your show tonight, you being the MC and you speaking to us was fantastic. He said, you did such a good job. He said, I felt like every time you picked up the microphone, you were talking directly to me. It was so endearing the way you spoke in this, and I felt like you were talking directly to me.
That's
and
so sweet.
And he said, the audience eats it up, and he said, I have a tip for you, though. He said, you tell us real quickly in the beginning that everything you do is 100% clogging. There's some tap, there's some iris, but most of the things you do are clogging, but that's all you say. You should go into more detail and do a number that explains to us and shows us the difference in the numbers. And I said, all right, cool. And that's perfect. And we had about a 10-minute conversation. We come to find out the guy's name was Evan Ensign. He's the original producer for Rent on Broadway.
Wow. You just never know.
You never know who's there, man. You never know who's watching what you're doing. And so I turned to the boys and I said, the producer of Rent just told me we should do this in our show. So we're going to do that next
We're
show.
doing it.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Great. But he realized it. He realized that it was the people needed a little bit more education on what it was. It's not good enough just to mention it real shortly.
Right.
You need to go into depth and detail and explain it to them. So we did that. It's about a 10-minute number. It shows some videos of Michael Flatley and Lord of the Dance. It shows Gregory Hines, Sammy Davis Jr., Fred Astaire, and all those guys. And when they see the things that they're familiar with, they tie it in better. And then we put the guys on stage, and one guy does clogging, one does Irish, and one does tap dancing right beside each other so they can see the difference in the three right there on stage in front of them. So it worked out well, but it was the guy from Rent who
That's
came up.
awesome.
So, yeah, we can't thank that dude enough.
You're always getting complimented as a dancer. So that getting complimented as the MC, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I was like, how many guys has this dude seen over the course of his career? And for him to say that to me was really, really flattering. It was really flattering.
Absolutely.
Like I said, I felt like I was a kid in high school who was meeting Michael Jordan, you know, and couldn't believe it was happening to me. So it was killer though, to get to speak to that guy.
Mike, you hit on that's the perfect thing that I want to talk about. We're going to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, I want to talk a little bit about educating the audience and maybe that next generation. What more can we do for the next generation to have that education behind them? So we'll be right back with Mike Curtis from All That. We're back here with my bestie, Geoff Steele, dancer and choreographer, and our special guest with us today, Mike Curtis from All That. Mike, you were talking about educating the audience with a beautiful number that you guys put together and meeting someone in the audience that's giving you advice that happened to be a producer from Rent, which is crazy. And how often does that happen to us as dancers? We're so lucky when those moments happen to us. You know, why do you think it is so important to teach the audience about these kind of cultural dances and educating them about this kind of style?
Well, that's the thing. My wife's mom always says the more dance shoes that you have in your bag, the better. She always says that thing, you know, you can never know enough about these types of styles. And in the dance world, the more styles you know, the better chance you're going to have at getting that Rockette audition or
that's right.
TV audition or something like that. So we have found in the past over the course of our careers, which we've been together for 20 years now. You believe that? Ain't that crazy? We've been together for that long as a group. And over the course of that, though, people don't often dislike what we do. Most of the times they get a real big kick out of what we do. They're normally real excited. It's a dance that's so full of energy. And when you come out dancing to Justin Timberlake and not bluegrass, it's a pleasant surprise for them. So I just imagine the amount of people in the world that simply don't know about it. And I think that's important. I think the dance itself deserves the recognition that these other dance styles have gotten. I mean, I'm 46 years old. I have a family, a house, and all this type of stuff because I clog. It's my full life. It has given me a beautiful life to live, and it deserves to be known about throughout the world. And that's one of our big, big goals. I think it's one of the most important things. You don't want it to die out. If you go to the competition world right now, it's a lot different than when we were there. There's hardly any guys that dance anymore. I think a lot of it is just nobody knows about it anymore.
I think you're right, Mike. I have the same problem. I have a dance group that I've had for almost 30 years, which is crazy to me to think about too. Like you're saying, the length of time that you spend with the amount of people. And I have researched all of these folk dances from Italy. And they're not seen, like you were saying. It's not seen. Nobody knows about them. They're rare. And once we perform them, they're so filled with energy. It's like you said, energy on the stage, and it's lively and engaging. And we have all ages that can come to our workshops and enjoy it. And I think once they see it, then they're like, hey, I'm missing out. I need to do this more often. And I think you're right. Something like clogging, that style, I love it and I've enjoyed it. And I think other people should see it. So how can we see your show when we're down at Myrtle Beach? How can we see you guys and be a part of your world?
So we are at the Carolina Opry Theater. They've got a website, thecarolinaopry.com. You can go there. There's a show schedule that shows every available show. We basically perform every night but Sunday. Sundays are dark days. That's the day we give to Jesus, You can't step on those toes.
And you probably need a day of rest for your feet.
We do. But there's two different shows. Like I said, we do there. The show schedule will be in there. We're in every single show. So
awesome.
If you come to any of those shows at the theater, we'll be there. Also on our Facebook page is mainly where I advertise it. We've got a big Facebook fan page. And every time we're out on the boats, no matter what ship it might be, Celebrity or Disney or whoever, I post that on there. So if you're ever out on one of the ships, you'll get to see a little more of us. That's a full 45-minute show. And then, just keep your eyes out on the TikToks and the Facebooks and all that. Every time we do a new number or something, I always post it so people can see. Because, a lot of people won't have the opportunity to make it to Myrtle Beach and won't be able to make it to the ship. So I want to make sure we share the new ideas and all that type of stuff we have with everybody. So.
And Mike, how do you guys cross train? And how many are in the group? Are there 4 or 6?
So there are about 15 of us.
Oh, wow.
That's the one thing that a lot of people don't know.
Oh, okay.
There are 4 of us that dance at the Opry on a regular basis. We've got a 5th guy that's here. That's a swing. So in case one of us is sick or needs to be out of the show, he's here. We've got 3 guys in Salt Lake City, 1 in Idaho, 1 in Vegas, 2 in Kentucky, 2 in Ohio. They're all over the place. And we've got a whole list now of a second troupe that we're putting together. So they're in the process of learning shows and all that type of stuff. Younger guys.
Fantastic. Wow.
So that we can be in more than one place at once. This past December, we had 4 guys in Myrtle Beach, 4 on a ship, and 4 in Texas, all 3 doing different performances. So you had 12 guys going at once. So It allows you some flexibility to pull those things off.
For sure. I could use a second myself.
Yeah.
If I could have a twin, that would be great, right? We all could use a second pair of feet. Do you guys do anything special before you go out onto the stage? Any superstitions or any special moves that you do before?
No, we normally touch every guy, whether it be a hug, a handshake, a high five, or whatever. That's kind of my thing. I want to make sure I have some sort of interaction with every guy. Because, us boys are best friends. And even the younger guys, I'm 46. We've got one guy that's just turned 18 years old. The kids from Utah are 22 and 23. So they kind of look up to us a little bit. And I don't want them to feel uncomfortable. I want them to know, buddy, you're me. me and you are the same when we walk out here on the stage, and I think that's important for their performance when they go out. They don't need to be nervous. They don't need to be, off their game. They need to know that they are just as important as these other boys that have been doing this for a long time. And it always works out. But we're all just as silly as we be, even those young boys are. And I think that's what gets us through. There's hardly ever any arguments. There's hardly ever any bad moments or anything.
Right.
And when one of those things comes up, somebody will say something silly and make everybody laugh, and we get by at that point.
It really comes across as a cohesive brotherhood.
Yeah,
it really does.
Yeah.
And growing up with you guys on the circuit, it almost seemed, I think, from this perspective, inevitable. Like, why wouldn't these guys who are like the top of their game,
right?
That competitiveness, it was so weird to me starting out, because around here there wasn't a lot of, we had to travel to get to a place where it would be considered competitive.
Yeah, there's not a lot of opportunities.
Right.
When we were growing up to have that advantage. So Geoff and I both traveled a lot to do bigger showcases of dance and getting different outlets and teachers and training. We always had to travel kind of far to get really great, amazing training.
Right.
So, we're lucky now in our careers that we have that education behind us and experience behind us. Mike, what would you say to the next generation? I saw your little girls peeking in there. Yeah. What would you say, to that next generation that wants to be successful like you?
We have a big summer intensive every year at my studio here in Myrtle Beach. And last year, there were about 60 kids that came in from Georgia, Maine, Tennessee, all these different areas. And I go out of my way to bring in some of the boys that they may not have access to on a regular basis. So this year, Caden and Austin are coming. That's the two boys from Salt Lake City. Caden's probably the best male dancer I've seen in the last 15 years.
Oh, wow.
He is bad to the bone, and he's got so much to offer that these kids may never get out west to be able to get a hold of. So I'm going to bring him and his brother both here. And that's one of the things that we concentrate on in our summer workshop is, no is not an option, man. No is not an option. We ended up with a group of guys that all have the same imaginations, that like to get wild with their imaginations and think outside the box. We all wanted to win, so we were all pushing each other to the fullest each and every single time, but I think that made us better. And those types of situations are what we preach to them. Don't make your friends your enemies, or your dancing friends that you see at competitions your enemies. Allow them to push you and you push them, because it's only going to help all of you in the future. If you go to an audition or something like that, we've got to do all these cool things, but we've been told no more than we've succeeded. It's how you take it. When you get on one of those TV shows and those judges say something bad about you, what are you going to do with that? Are you going to take that and go home and cry tears in your bed? Or are you going to take it and make yourself better? That's the type of outlook that you've got to have on this. And we just had a group of guys that never would settle. When they told us we weren't good enough, that wasn't settling well for us. So we went home, took what they said, turned it into something fantastic, and could not wait to show them the next time. So your desire to be the best that you can be at this is a big thing. The people that you surround yourself with pushing you and you pushing them is another big thing, and not being afraid of it. I tell these kids, some of them come up, their mom came up and said, I had to bring her over here. She's scared to death to come up and talk to you because of the group and this and that and this and that. And I tell them, just like I was saying earlier, I'm a small town boy from a little country town, and I do not get into that whole half famous thing and all that type of stuff. Any question they have, I encourage them to come up to me, and I specifically will take my time to explain it in a way that I wish somebody would have explained to me when I was a kid, because I was lucky enough to have those opportunities, and this is how it turned out. So I'd like for those kids to have the same opportunity. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. I know that was a lot, but
that is great advice. And everybody starts somewhere. We all started at step one, got to get those shoes on and start somewhere.
Yep.
You don't just come out of the womb and have all these amazing dance moves. It just doesn't work that way.
And, I tell people that all the time. There's a lot of kids now that want to skip steps 2, 3, and 4 to get to step 5. So they get step 1 down, and they want to skip the next 3 steps to get to where we are. Well, that's not the way it works.
No.
It's complicated. And you need to learn steps 2, 3, and 4 before you can move on to step 5, or you're going to do steps 6, 7, and 8 wrong. You have to have the correct techniques. You got to do everything right. And I hate to see instructors rushing these kids through it these days, because the kids are the ones that are going to suffer for that later on. There was a couple kids that had been dancing. I want to say they said 2 to 3 years that I taught at a workshop this past summer, and they didn't know how to do a buck basic.
Oh, wow.
And they'd been dancing 2 to 3 years. And I was like, somebody rushed them through it. They taught them basics and triples and stuff, and then moved right into double doubles and pullbacks. And that's not the way it works, man.
Nope.
Jeff and I talk about that all the time. It's not drive-through dance. You can't order it. It's not on the menu. Like, you have to do the work and the journey to appreciate all of the hard work when you finally get to the stage.
That's one of the big things. Like, when we go on these TV shows, I wish they would understand, but it's one of the things that we push harder in our shows and this. And I want people to understand this is not an easy dance to do.
No.
It is not. It takes years to perfect this type of stuff and to get it to the level that you see some of these boys doing. If you go into, I love hip hop. I've just started taking some hip hop myself, but I actually did the hip hop pretty well in the first class I was in. It's not as complicated a dance on the general level as clogging is. Now, when you get to that elite level of hip hop, it's the same. No young dancer is going to jump into that and be good, but you can get to the general level of hip hop a lot easier, or some of these other dances as well. Not trying to single out hip hop, but that's just the one that most people generally know. But you can get to a good point in hip hop a lot quicker than you can clogging. It's really, really difficult to get to that level. And if they understood that, they might give us a couple bonus points. You never know, but.
Well, I give you all the kudos that are in my body and my shoes, because I've tried clogging and Jeff has tried to teach me, and I know some basic steps. I'm like, wow, this is complicated. Wait, slow down. Let's do that step again. Because like you said, I just wanted to conquer maybe step 1 and 2. Jeff's the expert over there, and he was always flying at our shows and stuff. And I'm like, okay, I just want to watch in the audience, because all the rhythms were just amazing flying out of his feet. It's just amazing to watch.
I think that there's always, you get to a certain level, and just sort of collectively speaking, a dance will get to a certain level. And whether it be hip hop, tap, or clogging, we get collectively to this certain level, and we're like, okay, but how can we make it more difficult? Do you know what I mean? Or a lot of times the next step will come from making a mistake or trying to, I accidentally hit my toe on that. So now we're seeing a lot of clogging, a lot more up on the toe and having toe blocks in the shoes. I think that was a huge step for clogging collectively, so to speak, is to really be up on that toe a lot now. There's always a way to raise that bar, and we're always kind of like looking as collectively, like, what's this next step that we take with any dance? And I think a lot of times, like, it's just that innovativeness within all of us who do choreography, who do step work, and take the chance of, hey, what's not being done? What haven't we seen yet? Let me try something different. And then the next thing you know, that's coming in as the next big craze. So it's always, I think, about elevating, once you get to the point of, well, I'm advanced, it leaves you no place to go unless you let your mind just run free for a little bit.
Well, and that was the point I was about to make too. You get to a certain point in any type of dance. You get to a certain point to where there may not be anything else for you to learn. You may have learned every move, and there's nothing else for your instructors to teach you. Well, then you might need to be the next move. You might need to use your imagination, open your mind up, and say, just like you said, where can we take this now? I've learned all these moves. Let's create something new that's going to challenge everybody. It's going to look good and this and that. The toe thing was a big moment. It seems like the next big movement right now is there's a lot of these very rhythmic steps coming into play. Maybe not so much on your toes and stuff, but there's a couple steps that we do that have these crazy rhythms where the rhythms go from slow to fast and then they completely change pace and all that type of stuff. It seems like that's the new common denominator, this new footwork that's coming out. And I love it. I love that more than I do the toes. I'm not a big toe guy. I mean, you can only do so many toes, you know.
I am not a big toe guy either because
just a toe.
My ankles don't like it.
Yeah.
But
these new rhythmic steps that we do and some of these other folks doing, the kid out west, Caden, does a lot of those very rhythmic steps. And I'll see him on his TikTok and I'll call him up and I'll say, look here, dog, you need
right?
You can't be putting stuff like that out and keeping it to yourself, you know.
I love it.
Another piece of that to go on with that is, like, you get to that point where there's nothing else you can learn or nothing else that you can be taught. You may need to take it your own, a step further. It may just be as simple as looking elsewhere as well. I've been dancing for so long. I am not afraid to go into somebody's class, man.
That's what I was going to ask you, Mike, is what inspires you? How do you get those creative juices flowing to think outside the box?
And like I said, I'm just not scared of going into a class. I remember several years ago, one of our buddies was down here judging at a competition and he was teaching a class at that competition. Chip Harrison's his name. He's from up near the Charlotte area. He was teaching a class. I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to his class. I haven't seen him dance in a while. Maybe he's got something that will inspire me or something that I can take and do my own with. When you go out west, a lot of those boys teach at studios and stuff out there. And they're always like, hey, can you stop in at the studio and teach a class? The kids would love it if they had you teaching a class. And there's 3 of those studios. And yes, I will happily do that. But then I always make them show me something. Well, show me something that you do too. It may be simple to you, but to me, that's new. And I may be able to take that and put a twist on it and come up with something new and creative on my end as well. So you can never be scared to learn. If you get scared to learn or get too good to learn, if you will, then that's an ego problem that you got to push out of your way. Because you'll never get any better at that point, because nobody's ever going to be able to teach you anything because your ego tells you you're already the best. And that's not where you want to live. Right. You want to go in those classes and you want to continue to try to make yourself better every single step of the way. And like I said, every chance I get to learn something new, I do it. Now I may go in one of those classes and not learn a daggone thing, but I may come out with 5 new techniques that I want to put into play in a step. It's a 50-50 shot when you go in, and we love to do it. So that's how we handle that.
Perfectly said, Mike. Dance is a conversation. And if nobody's speaking with you and having that conversation, that back and forth, then we're never going to get anywhere with our art form and inspire the next generation to be different and continue to grow and challenge each other in great ways, like you said.
That's correct.
It was such an honor to have you on the podcast today. Your knowledge and your wealth of success, your dance journey. Thank you for sharing all of that. We have learned so much from you, and I hope you stop back. I can't wait to see you in Myrtle Beach. I know we'll be coming down to the beach soon this summer, and
there you go.
Definitely will stop in and see the show and clap and cheer for you all.
Thank you. I got to say, I sure appreciate you having me. It still flatters me that these days when people want to talk and hear the story of the group and all that type of stuff. So I can't tell you thank you enough and how much I appreciate you having me today. Jeff, it's good to talk to you again, my man.
You too, brother. Keep up the good work.
We got to get together soon, trade a step or two. And
absolutely.
And just have some conversations. But yeah, I sure appreciate it. Tell everybody out there, if they're hearing me now, don't stop, man. Keep pushing. Everybody can get to that same spot. Just don't let yourself stop. That's the big deal.
Absolutely. Don't quit. And Mike, stick around after the show and maybe we'll talk about, maybe we could all Zoom together and have a class. All right. Thanks everyone for joining us today on the dance floor. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'm your host, Anna Harsh, with my special co-host, Geoff Steele, and our guest, Mike Curtis today. Until next time, keep moving and grooving on the dance floor.